Blasko,
Jojo.
how you doing?
Good, buddy.
So what are we talking about today?
Oh, my gosh.
I cannot wait.
I just got back from New York last night, so traveling like a maniac still. I was in Miami last week, but that was fun. That was my golf trip. This week was work, and it was good. I feel a little run down. Sinuses draining a little bit, so on and so forth, but I'm good. So let's talk about, well, I know there's something happening downtown Youngstown on May 9th.
Yes, May 9th. These two guys are coming to
What?
town.
Yeah, do we know these guys?
They're good dudes.
Frickin' frack?
Frick and Frack. Really talented motivational speakers. That's what I heard.
Whoa.
That's what the public's saying.
Whoa. All right, let's not disappoint them. May 9th, Joe and Blasko will be doing a night of inspiration and motivation at DeYor. If you have not gotten your tickets, get your butt to DeYor online.
Pick
Get a
out your
ticket.
seats. Sit up front
Right,
so
they're
we can
cheap.
see your
They're
eyeballs.
$25 or $35. It's a night of inspiration. Come down, have dinner before, hang out with us after. We're going to hit a couple bars, have a couple cocktails. It's going to be awesome.
I can't wait. I'm just getting stoked.
All right, let's talk about moon landings.
Yes. Oh, the moon landing.
Yeah, what? So it was it the Odyssey or the Odysseus
Yeah.
or the 1M
Odysseus.
one lander? Odysseus, the 1M or the IM one lander.
Real close.
Odysseus,
Yeah.
IM one lander. What? Okay, first of all, was that private sector or was that NASA?
Both. It was a hybrid. 90% of it was a private company that put that stuff there.
Do we know that company?
Uh,
It wasn't Musk or one of those
no,
guys. Okay,
no,
okay, okay,
no.
okay.
I'm not familiar with them
Okay.
at all. And NASA just was they did the payload, they did the launch, they facilitated it.
Okay. What was happening? Satellite being put up.
So next year we're going to be doing a mission there that's going to ferry some equipment, and then in 2025 we're actually taking people to the moon. So this is all set up. They're doing measurements, they're
Okay.
finding out landing zones, they're doing their homework, their preparation for that mission. So this was an instrument there that was going to start doing some of the calculations towards that mission.
And it landed incorrectly.
Well,
Or what happened?
okay, so on approach it lost its main navigational system.
Okay.
So it's cameras, it was coming in blind.
Okay.
So they have a backup system that uses LiDAR. And LiDAR basically sends out frequencies, it bounces off
Ooh,
things.
LiDAR. People, you can go over land with LiDAR and see
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
topography.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay,
So they
okay.
basically saw the outline of where they were landing. They didn't have much in the way of dimension. They, it was kind of limited as what they can see, but they used the backup system to land.
Okay.
Right? And because they didn't have the orientation quite right, or the system's driving itself, but it uses those instruments to make its calculations.
Okay.
So they're pretty much system was doing some, and then they were overriding and doing some of it manually. Well, it came in a little hot, and when it landed, it broke one of its landing, fins.
Okay.
And so as soon as it landed, it tipped over, and it was on its side. So the solar panels were pointed away from the sun. So
okay.
it was in low power
Couldn't
mode.
regenerate itself.
Now they got some data, some pictures from it, but it was a loss. It really was. This morning, it shut down for its final time. It was only designed to last 1 week.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it served its time, ran out of power now, gave its final goodbyes, and now Odie is dead on the moon.
Jeez. How much did that cost us?
It was a lot. They paid $115 million to get there. That's not including what it cost to build. So
I would have done it for half that.
half that, at least.
Half
at
that. I would have
least.
figured out a way to get it up there and keep it landing. These, what do we call them? Landers? Are we landing in the same place we landed back in 1969?
No, they're picking different spots.
Okay.
And yeah, they're, I think this was the South Pole. I think they did more of a northern hemisphere when the 1969 version went there.
Right.
So.
Okay. They're going to put man on moon in a year, you said?
Oh yeah. Well, no. Next
Down
year,
and back, or
Next
just-
year is going to be drones and equipment.
Okay.
In 2025. Well, maybe it's 2026 then, because it's 2 years away from people being there.
Being there for 1 day, down and back, or being there for...
It's a good question. I don't know what the mission entails. We
Curious.
talked to the guy, and all of the features right now are in the getting there portion.
Okay.
They haven't done much in saying why or what they're going to do. We kind of anticipate that if we build production facilities and manufacturing on the moon, that this is sort of the preliminary look and see what we can do, picking
Okay.
proper spots.
All right, mission to the moon. Okay, so I was just doing a seminar a couple weeks ago for a client, and I pulled some old school stuff that I haven't talked about in years. Like, I have so much stuff up here that sometimes when I'm in the middle of a speech, something I'll think of I haven't said in 5 years will just come out. So it reminds me of what we're talking about because it's called the Mission to Mars Project. It was, or it is, the triple constraints of any project. Are you familiar with the triple constraints?
Tell me.
So there are 3 constraints that are present during every project we do, whether it's painting your house or working on a program for a client. And the 3 constraints are budget, performance, and time. So budget, performance, and time are the triple constraints that are present during every project, no matter what the project, big or small. What we need to figure out, I think this is good information for anyone working on something, you got to figure out of those 3 constraints, which one is driving. Sometimes you'll have 2, you'll never have 3. And that's where sometimes people fail because they want all 3 to drive or they think the client wants all 3 to drive. So of the 3 constraints, budget, performance, and time, when you can figure out what the driver is, then you can work out everything along with the project geared towards the driver. So here's an example I use. It's called Mission to Mars. Let's say Joe Danyi becomes president next year. And your whole it could happen, right? I'll vote for you. Your whole campaign was Mission to Mars. So you got the American people stoked. They're thinking, we're going to hire this guy. So boom, you win the presidency.
This is a very likely scenario, by the way. You might be outlining my entire campaign.
I'm like a prophecy. I'm like Nostradamus. So you're hired. You're the president. Boom. I am your Mission to Mars consultant. All right, that's my project. 2 months into your presidency, you come to me and say, Blasko, by 2028, I want to put a man or woman on Mars and return them home safely. So based on me hearing that as the project manager, 2028, man or woman to Mars, home safely. What 2 constraints of the 3, budget, performance, and time, are driving right now? Think it through.
All right, so timing probably because I'm only going to be president for 4 years.
And you gave me a date, 2028. So time is driving and
performance.
Correct, because you said safe. So right now, so if I'm the project manager, I'm thinking, okay, time and performance are driving. But I need to figure out of those 2, which is the real driver so I can really work on the project. So I bust ass with my crew. We come to you and we say, hey, Joe, I come to you in a year. I go, all right, buddy, I could put a man or woman on Mars by 2028. Actually, no, I'll say this. Joe, I can put a man or woman on Mars, return them home safely, but it's going to be not until 2029. What is your situation? What do you say?
Well, the safety is pretty critical, so let's do it.
You're okay with that? Okay, so that tells
that.
me now your driver is really what?
It's
performance.
Safety. Yep.
Right. So, okay, so now I'm working towards performance. I have a little leeway now. I don't have to bust ass and get there at 80% by 2028. I can make it 100%, right? So I come to you a year later. I go, Joe, okay, we did it, man. We've got it. We're going to get him there by 2029 and home safely. However, I just realized it's going to cost an extra $4 billion. Are we okay with that?
Sure.
Okay.
It's part of my campaign.
So your driver is still what?
Performance.
Had you said, whoa, what would have happened?
Then we knew what was really driving.
What was once never mentioned, budget, now has just become the driver of the project. So that just, I don't know, a couple weeks ago I said that to a client. It made sense. And I thought, boy, I haven't preached that in a long time. So anything you're working on, whether it's painting the house, you know what I mean? You can get the $20 paint or you can get the $10 paint. Well, if budget's your driver, then you're probably going to get the $10 paint. But if performance is your driver and you don't care about the budget, then you're going to get the $20 paint, make it look nicer. So I don't know why that popped in my head because we were talking about the
let me show you.
Mars.
This got some parallels here. Like I took a personality test one time.
Okay.
Right? And the person asked me like really what was my things that are most my important traits. And I was thinking like they're all the things I feel are my ideals are all super important. So he took these cards out and he made me choose. If
I know who this person is.
If you were one or the other. And I found myself thinking like before you're given a binary this or that choice, there's no way I could have put one ahead of the other because to me, it all needed to happen.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So in this case, you know, if you were to say, hey, I can the work that's going to make the astronauts safe, right, is going to take an extra year. Is safety the concern, or was the year if you give them that choice, your brain clicks and will tell you which one of those really was the priority, even though it's hard to do it when they're in the aggregate.
Correct. Because if you would have said, as the president, nope, it's got to be 2028, then okay, his driver is time.
Absolutely.
So we got to figure out how to make this happen by then. But the moment you said 2029, it told me his driver is not time. It's more performance, so let's get him there safe. Because you may have said 2028, I'll take 98%. We're good.
Now, do you think
I'm thinking you want 100% safety, but you could have been like, nah, 98's good.
Now, consumers are so driven that they are not going to compromise on any three of those things. They want it cheap,
right?
They want it fast, and they want it solidly good, right?
I know, and that's the thing with your clientele you're working with. Anyone who's working with any clientele, they're going to want all three to drive. You can't. You'll go insane. So you got to almost kind of pick one, pick two. Almost like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You have four choices, and you could choose one. You know, the answers, I always like those game shows where here's the question, you have A, B, C, or D. It's one of those. Too many times we want A, B, C, D, E, F. You can't. You have to hone things in for people. Here are your three options. Pick one. Most people like to pick and choose, I have found.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to guide them to figure out what their driver is.
And a lot of people are excluded that because there's not like a trust authority between people. Like if I said my budget is the least important thing, if I don't trust you, then you're gonna be like,
right,
drive that sucker right up.
Right.
Or if time's not the important thing, then you're just gonna take your time, not put me as a priority.
Correct.
So I have to play against you and make all three. I don't want you to know which card's important to me. Because I think you're going to play something against me if you know that information.
And I find that in real estate, it's always present, those three constraints: budget, performance, and time. I need a house now. I got $400,000. Well, it's going to be $500,000. I can wait a month. You know what I mean? Okay, well, I thought you needed it now. Yeah, but so that's something to think about. All right, let's talk about. I don't know if I would ever feel safe being on an airplane that is battery powered.
You don't.
I don't.
Why?
You have a Tesla, correct?
Yeah.
So battery-powered cars and scooters and things of that nature are very neat to me. I mean, the fact that you vroom. I think it's old school mentality. So when my brother and I first bought our first houses, we were like 2 doors down. He bought an electric scooter. I remember it distinctly. This was 25 years ago. I was in Vincennes University driving home from Indiana, and I bought a gas-powered scooter. And I just was keen on gas-powered because it will always run when I want it to if there's gas in it. With the electric scooter, it has to be charged. You have to wait sometimes. It's not ready. Gas, go. So my mentality has always been gas is better than battery. Not saying it is or not, but that's just the way I feel. So being on a plane, I feel... something could go wrong with gas versus just as easy as battery powered, but I don't know. I don't know if I would trust battery powered planes.
Well, this will make you feel a little bit safer, and I'll tell you why I don't think that we should go the battery planes route. So first of all,
we should.
We should not. We should not.
Whoa.
So
Joe, Danny's saying we should not.
Now, first off, like the systems you got all the same electronics. So anything that could happen that's really catastrophic can happen in either scenario. So
Correct.
that's off the table.
Right.
And I could be riding in my car and something's not right with the computer system. I could reboot the thing while I'm driving, and it seamlessly switches to a redundant backup system that then will carry me until the computer continues to reboot, and you'll never notice it's even happening.
Okay.
All right, so let's just say you have a battery pack for your main flight, and then you have your emergency battery pack. So if the battery pack, does something or doesn't work or whatever, you got a redundant system. So that's the reason I think it's a 100% one-to-one. I think we're smart enough to make it, equal to the safety that we have right now. But airplanes you don't get to be wrong on airplanes. And I think our system right now is really good for safety. You don't hear like every month an airplane going down. So to start experimenting in a space that's pretty solid, I think we're serving a demand that's really not there. I would say stick to what is absolutely the safest mode of transportation that there is until there's a really good reason. That's proven out. You got 5 years of track record where these are indestructible. They're not catching fire. There's really not anything that goes wrong. Then you can start. I experiment now, but not in mainstream.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's it.
In
It's
that
safe,
situation,
it's
that
good.
is one of the things that that is just, it's good. If this engine fails, there's backup engines, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'm not distrusting it because I think there's anything wrong from a mechanical standpoint
Right.
or, technology. I just think that you're introducing something when there is no problem.
No
in
need
that.
for it.
Yeah.
You know what? That reminds me of cell phone updates. When I see a cell phone update, I want to puke because I'm like, you got to schedule it. You got to hit it. I think you do. Sometimes it says it's going to do it automatically. And I would say I'm all for change. I preach it all the time. Change promotes opportunity. Change is for the better. We just got to figure out what that better is sometimes. But of all the things that change when cell phone updates, because sometimes it's not broke, don't fix it. And all of a sudden something's different. And I thought it was better the old way, actually. And I have found that for whatever reason, cell phone updates drive me nuts.
And that's the trust. Like if you did 5 updates and it got better incrementally and there was never a problem, then you'd run that sucker and not even think twice about it.
Yeah.
But if you're jumping out of an airplane and you got your parachute and you're like, you know what, I feel like changing parachutes. I'm going to do that right now while I'm falling. Then you're like, let's wait till I'm on the ground. Like I don't have nothing important because I think that maybe something's going to go wrong and I'm going to plummet to my death. I don't trust that exchange when it matters. If you're in a conference and your notes are on your phone, it's like, oh, I'm going to do an update right before a conference. And I trust it's going to come up and my notes are going to be there, right?
Gotcha. Have you ever jumped out of an airplane?
I've got scheduled once to do it against my better judgment, but there was too much cloud cover, and they told me no. So I thought that was a sign from God that I'm not supposed to do it.
I was lucky years ago. I'm gonna say I'm 51. I was probably 20. This is 30 years ago. No one believes me when I tell this story. Me and a couple of my buddies found a place where we could literally jump on our own. No tandem. No static line. First jump. After a 3-hour course, pulled my own ripcord, 110 mile per hour free fall, checked my altimeter by myself. I did it.
So
13,000 feet. Now, there were instructors out there in the air with you, but you were on your own. There was no one on your back. It was unbelievable. And no one believed me. They go, no, your first jump, you have to have someone on your back, or you have to be tandem, or you have to.
All right, through the same thing with me. That one I was scheduled on. We went through all of the introductory thing, and they were leading us out to the plane to do this jump. And I'm thinking the whole time that I'm walking that, they told me how to roll and what the chords did. Do I really know enough right now to be jumping? Did you have any doubts that you were good enough or could do it?
I think I was just young and fearless, to be honest with you. I mean, I was 20 years old. We're like, screw it, let's go. We knew the instructors were in the air with us, but we were literally on our own. Now, I'm sure if I pulled, but I mean, I literally pulled my own ripcord. The thing went up, sailed by myself. And I always thought, how do you land? How can a parachute person land on the 50-yard line in a stadium? You know, when you see it, it's unbelievable. It's not hard. I swear to you, I hit my mark. I mean, now I hit it. I didn't stand up. I mean, I went to my butt when I landed, but it was way easier than I thought.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat. So, yeah, it just made me think of skydiving when you said
There's
that.
a lot of instances where I can't believe that I'm going to be allowed to do this with absolutely no experience. Like when I bought my motorhome, like this thing's,
right, it's huge.
40
it's a
foot.
beast.
And when I'm driving aloft, I'm like, who's permitting me to do this? I've never driven one of these things before. And you just gave me the keys to this thing.
Because you don't need a CDL for that, do you?
No, you just
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm allowed to do half the shit that I'm allowed to do.
Do you have any trips planned coming up?
I don't. I've been so busy. Like I probably put off. I'm doing a couple of weekend going down to the forest down by Columbus, and that's about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like the motorhome life. I've never owned one. I've been in them before. I think they're cool. I think it's a lot of work. I think to some degree when you pull into that, what are they called? HOVs, HDVs, JD. What are those places called when you're driving down the road and you see the yellow sign for motorhomes?
They have the. I've never been on one. Where at? What state?
Well, you could pull in and plug in.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Not
I can think of it.
HDV.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Those. So I see them all over the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As I travel, and I thought, man, that'd be kind of cool. I forget now. I need to know what it's called. Oh well. All right, your turn. What do you want to talk about?
Well, you brought up Mars, and so let's go back to Mars. I mean, and so like we've been watching a lot of dystopian movies lately about the end of the world and asteroids hitting and how we're really going to meet our demise, right? And the conversation of being multiplanetary, we're spreading out human civilization on different planets. So if that would occur, could we survive it? Right.
Okay.
And so now, first off, do you think the world's going to be destroyed anytime soon? Are you getting the hints that we're getting close to the end?
No.
Okay. Got some time.
Right. I
So if you pick your date when we get okay, so let me give you 2 end dates that are
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
The sun's gonna expand and it's gonna envelop the Earth probably 2 billion years from now.
That is going to happen, you're
Gonna
saying?
happen. 2
That's
billion
gonna,
from now,
We know that?
Earth's gone.
How do we know that?
We know which
Just
it
because
is
over the years of
expanding.
looking at it and
Yes.
we're doing the science and research.
Okay, so that's the Earth ender.
Okay.
But then also our galaxy the Milky Way galaxy is going to smash into the Andromeda galaxy in 200 billion years. So even if we go to Mars and escape the Earth or the sun expanding into our solar system,
Okay.
then we've got another 190 billion years to figure out how to go beyond the Milky Way and to populate out in the Andromeda, even beyond the Andromeda to survive that one. So it's the bookend is down the road a bit,
Okay.
right? Not our lifetime,
Right.
for sure, right? But we got to start. This is the era that we might embark on that end.
I can't even fathom when it gets in the billions and millions. Like when I see what's their name? Not anthropologist. Who does the dinosaur bones?
Not not archaeologists.
No. Archaeologists do digs, but who's the paleontologist?
Paleontologists. Okay.
So when a paleontologist finds a dinosaur bone, we know roughly when the dinosaurs lived, but all right, maybe that's a bad example. Whatever they say it's this gem or this stone or this rock or this whatever is 2 billion years old or 500,000 years. To me, I can't even fathom how they could even calculate. Because there's a big difference between a million and a billion, right?
Right.
You've seen that. 1 million minutes is how many days? 30-some days or something. And 1 billion is 31 years or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
I can't even wrap my head around how they can determine 1 billion, 2 billion, 1 million, 4 billion. I don't know.
Yeah,
that blows me away. I don't understand. I can't.
There's
even go
there's
there.
a lot of theoretical math
Right.
in it where if you got in your time machine and you put it for 2 billion years to go see if how right you are,
Right.
you're probably way off.
Off a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Because the one thing about it is like we only live in a 100-year cycle, so we don't see things how they change in a big enough scope to know, right?
Okay.
So when we do carbon dating, we're calculating the throw off of different things on the atomic level, and we're counting how long it takes to do those things. So when we look at something, we make a measurement on how many of those things should be thrown off, and we're like, oh, if things stayed consistent over 2 billion years and they stayed just like they are right now, that's 2 billion years old.
Okay.
But if things fluctuated, where time got
Okay,
faster,
we talked
time
about
got
this
slower,
before. Right.
then
There
we
are
might
other
be a little bit off.
situations,
Yes.
other circumstances that alter
Yeah.
what could. Okay.
But that's what human beings can't wrap our brain around.
Right, I can't.
Just like if you were describing, what Florida is to an ant that lives in Ohio. They don't have the mathematics that can contemplate things that are
They
a
can't
mile away.
cognitize it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Too big.
All right, too big. What do you think about dinosaurs? I mean, they lived, right?
For sure.
Obviously. Would you like to live with dinosaurs now? I mean, if they were friendly. I mean,
Man,
forget
that'd
the
be a challenge.
The
Like
T-Rexes
going to
are
work
up.
would be a
Right.
challenge.
I mean,
Some days I think I would do really well on those long odds things. I think I'm the warrior and I'd have
Right.
my spear and whatever. And some days when I'm walking to get the mail, I'm like, something could take me out right now, right?
I always thought it would be neat to just see a dinosaur walking around.
Maybe for a day.
For a day.
Lots of tools with me, lots of weaponry in one day.
All right, let me ask you this. So when I go to Miami on this golf trip, there are iguanas that are this big.
Yeah.
There are alligators. Saw there was an alligator on the course this year, 10-footer, big, sunning right there on the course. Every time I see an alligator or a iguana or a whatever, I think dinosaur. I think it's a brother, sister, cousin, neighbor, relative of the dinosaur. So I think they're still here, just on a smaller scale level, right? Even some of the birds that fly. I mean, you had the pterodactyl back in the day, which was a dinosaur bird, but then, I don't know. So it's still kind of here to some degree. I'm sure some of the fish in the ocean that we can't see are prehistoric.
Yeah, and this gets into the multiverse and the evolution, the billions of repetitions till you get different beings, different animals, and whatever. It's beyond certain thinking, the brain's ability to process that how many things had to die before we get to an iguana, right? Because think about it, like in order for an animal to become a different thing, the ones that were successful got to live and the ones that were unsuccessful had to die. right?
Right.
And so then the ones that were successful had babies, and then
Evolved.
it becomes, think of how many cycles had to go in to going from a starfish to or a dinosaur
Right.
to an iguana.
Are we done with that though? Can it
Hell
still
no.
keep? So can it
It's
still
gonna
keep
keep
evolving?
But we're talking billions of years instead of
right.
the 100 years
Right.
that we're capable of thinking. We won't probably see an iguana change much in our lifetime, but fast forward to a billion years from now, that iguana might be completely different, more successful.
It might be
thing.
smoking a cigarette, sitting there talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, and really whatever trait and what success equals becomes different over time. So like a success at one time was being able to run from a lion, and then success now would be, bigger thoughts and strategies to outpace, fellow humans. In the future, like success might be something entirely different.
Interesting. I'm done.
Man, we go all over the place. I love it. And if you didn't get your tickets, make sure you go to the DeYor box office. These two guys are going to be on stage. We got a musical guest coming in the beginning.
Right, Sam Blasko.
Sam Blasko. And then you'll have me talking for a little while. Then we got some hybrid me and Blasko exchange. And then we got the primetime Blasko
Oh, boy.
following. Have dinner. Visit the bars downtown.